What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Schreckbein, joined always by my man in the corner, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, well, they started making change, and that change comes at the most important position with a 4-2 football team on an offense that, well, just scored 32 points. But when you look back at it, the more you look around it, maybe the change is okay. We'll dive into where the Pittsburgh Steelers stand and what I believe it's a 20-second clip from practice tells us pretty much everything we need to know about where this quarterback situation is headed for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Meanwhile, some news and notes all surrounding wide receiver trades and who the wide receivers are, who the Pittsburgh Steelers should expect to play at wide receiver this week. And it's Wednesday, so we're diving into our power rankings. We got some shift in them this week, and I almost had a little bit of more, but I'll share that with you guys as we get kicking. Nick, it's a good one. I just ran into this office about 4.5 minutes ago. It's always good. You know what I mean? Like the wind down happens as the show starts. So it's almost adrenaline fighting relaxation, fighting more adrenaline at the same time. The body feels great. These Alani energy drinks keep me kicking, which only help a little bit. I'm feeling great. I hope you are as well. How you feeling, my friend?
I don't know how anybody could not be great considering the uniforms the Pittsburgh Steelers are wearing this weekend.
Yes.
I talked to you
Yes.
yesterday, and I couldn't remember if it was on show or off show, but I don't care because it's worth mentioning twice if we did bring it up. The Steelers are going block letter uniforms on Sunday. They already changed their entire profile on all social medias with the new Avi, the new profile pic, and they're going with the gray face masks. I'm extremely excited, and that just makes me happy. So I don't care what happens the rest of the week. I'm going to be in a good mood knowing that on Sunday night, I get to see the block letters back in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I actually was asking a couple of guys today. I was just, just messing around, just talking. You like the uniforms? Do you like the gray face masks? Because they wear them during practice, and it's a change. Like it is definitely a significant look compared to, or it's a significantly different look compared to their every week uniforms and every week helmets. And I was talking to some guys, and they were very, very clearly like, yeah, dude, it makes us pop. But some guys at the same time were like, I don't understand. Like, there's really no difference. Like, there's a very small difference between these ones. And then I actually got somebody who said that they wish they were around for the Bumblebee uniforms so they got to rock them. And I said, dude, as somebody who was here for the Bumblebee uniforms, you do not wish you got to rock the Bumblebee uniforms. Those things were atrocious, but it is going to be nice to break that out. Do you get, I mean, we've been talking bumps for 2 weeks now. Do you get a throwback uniform bump? Do you add that into the mix here?
I mean, they're 2-0 in those uniforms, are they not? I mean, they won the Raiders game and then they won the Packers game last year. I mean, they beat Jordan Love in those uniforms. So I think that you do. I think that you're feeling good. Sunday night, the lights are bright and you're looking like, I mean, anytime you honor a Super Bowl champion team, I think that gives you a little bit of bump. And we've been talking about that, that word a lot this week. I think it does. I think you get a nice fresh fit bump if you're the Steelers this weekend.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. I think a good uniform, I mean, you look good, you play good. That's where we stand. And you got to feel like, yeah, it's a nice little boost to a lot of other things as we approach Jets Steelers on Monday night. On top of, did you hear Donald Trump's coming to this game?
I did not. I mean, he had Sunday. Much 2 weeks ago. So,
dude, him and AB are going to campaign through the crowd before this game. I don't care what your political party is. Is there a crazier duo that you could possibly run into before a Steelers game than Antonio Brown hanging out with Donald Trump?
No, there's not. And I thought you were going another way. And the answer again is no. Is there a crazier way to campaign than walking through a Steelers tailgate for a night game? Not a 1 p.m. game where you can get a little bit tipsy, a night game where the majority of the people in that parking lot have been there since 10 a.m. and are loaded. So interesting. It's going to be interesting to see, clips from that, social media from that. But big weekend in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know if Social Security or not Social Security, social, what is it called? Secret
Secret
Service.
Service.
I told you, adrenaline,
We
relaxation.
don't have to worry about Social Security. It's not going to exist when we get
No,
that.
it's not going to exist when we get there. But Secret Service, I can't imagine being very cool with Antonio Brown hanging out. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, everybody else, I hope you guys enjoy the game on Sunday, whether you run into AB or not. Let's talk some Pittsburgh Steelers before we dive into Russell Wilson and Justin Fields in a 27-second clip that tells us everything we need to know about the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback competition. Let's talk about some news and notes. There are two big ones, I believe, from today. I'll toss it to you. What do we got?
Yeah, let's start with a little bit of a scouting report on the New York Jets. Davante Adams, obviously in the news a lot this week. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury, but he is expected to make his Jets debut nonetheless on Sunday Night Football. So the Steelers lose out on Davante Adams and now have to face Davante Adams from the looks of it on Sunday night.
Yeah. I tried to. I won't lie to you. I tried to get some inside scoop on where do you go, whose film do you watch? Do you watch Aaron Rodgers? Do you watch Davante Adams? Do you watch the Packers? And Dante Jackson looks at me. He's like, "Dog, I ain't giving you away. I ain't giving away the secrets to the sauce here." And I said, "I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to give away anything. I promise I wasn't trying to give anybody an advantage. I was just trying to find out." I don't know where the Pittsburgh Steelers look for this one. I'll tell you this. It's hilarious that in the NFL, a 33-year-old could instantly, snap of the finger, be healed from a hamstring injury that has Nick Herbig missing several games, Corey Trice on IR. But you know what they say? 33, ripe age for hamstrings. That's actually when your hamstrings heal the fastest. Anything before then, much slower process. So shout out to Davante Adams and the fastest healing hamstrings in the NFL. I expect him to play a full load. I do not expect any limitations to Davante Adams or where he or anybody else goes with this one. I just look at the Jets offense surrounded by Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. Anybody who has him on their fantasy team, chances are you're going to get a heavy dose of Adams. But the Steelers also have to worry about Garrett Wilson and Allen Lazard, who have both been good wide receivers this season. And that's going to be a challenge because you could cover Davante with Joey Porter Jr., Dante Jackson. You could cover Garrett Wilson with the other one. But at some point, Beanie Bishop and company has to take on that third guy. And no matter who that third guy it's going to be a challenge. So not great that Davante is playing. The Steelers expected him to. I expect a full workload. Shout out to some miraculous hamstrings that, it's the New York weather. It's cold. And again, nothing like a crisp in the air that really gets your muscles to where they need to be. Vegas, too warm, too humid. I mean, just the conditions were terrible. So shout out to Davante Adams.
Well, that's not the only wide receiver news we had earlier today. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler says the Pittsburgh Steelers are the next team up for a wide receiver trade. At this point, there's been two this week, and obviously the Steelers were heavily involved in the preseason Brandon Ayuk saga. So finally, it seems like they're the next team up, according to Jeremy Fowler.
Yeah, it feels like they've been the next team up for like 6 months now. They're the next team. They're the next team. They're the next team, except for the Jets, who weren't supposed to be the next team. The Bills, who weren't supposed to be the next team. Now we're looking at it going, maybe they're the next team. Maybe that's where we sit here. I'll spin this one. I'll toss you a name here, okay? And I'll read some stats first because the stats are terrible. 16 receptions, 95 yards. He's averaging 5.9 yards a reception. His best season in 4 seasons is 640 yards and 2 touchdowns last year with 59 receptions. I think the Steelers should call Cleveland and say, hey, I know you're selling house. I know it's over. Let's talk about Elijah Moore. Last year of his contract, 24 years old. I'm not saying he's an answer. I'm just saying, missed out on Davante Adams. You missed out on Brandon Ayuk. You missed out on Amari Cooper. It sounds like Courtland Sutton's not getting dealt. DeAndre Hopkins said today that he wants to stay in Tennessee. He does not want to leave the Titans. I don't think he gets to make that call. But if he is staying in Tennessee, if they are not going to trade him, that's another one gone. Mike Williams, cool. I like that one. I think that one works. What about Elijah Moore? Speedy guy, could play all 3 positions at wide receiver, X, Y, and Z. I mean, Why not? Why not go get Elijah Moore and say, screw it, here's a 5th-round pick, whatever, you're cleaning house, you're looking for the future. You could stack these and go get a quarterback or something in a year, because Elijah Moore, just like everybody else in Cleveland, is not going to stay after his contract expires.
I mean, there are no sure bets right now that are on the wide receiver trade market. So if you're going to take a swing at one, I don't hate the thought of taking a swing at Elijah Moore. And again, you're not going to be able to compare it. Don't compare it to Devontae Adams. Don't compare it to Brandon Ayuk.
No.
These two wide receivers that the Steelers had apparently been in talks to acquire. Compare it to who you have. Compare it to Van Jefferson. Compare it to Calvin Austin. Not what we expect Calvin Austin to be, what we've seen Calvin Austin be. And when you do that, yeah, taking a shot on Elijah Moore doesn't sound bad.
That's what I'm saying. I look at this and say, at this point, just add somebody. And if it's cheap, great. If you could go with DeAndre, awesome. If you could go get Mike Williams, awesome. If you could go get Darius Slayton, awesome. But if you can't do any of those, screw it. Start calling around, see who's available for nothing, because teams are looking to clean house. There's got to be somebody. And at 24 years old, at least you got an opportunity to say, well, he hasn't done anything, but maybe he'll do a little bit more. Maybe he'll do more in Pittsburgh than he did with Deshaun Watson. Maybe Russell Wilson is a better option than what he's currently worked with. I mean, his NFL career is whoever was in New York at the time, which, I mean, that's your answer to that one. It's whoever was in New York at the time. And then Deshaun Watson, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and, well, his best season was with Joe Flacco. So I'm just saying maybe. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm just saying let's toss out some more names. Elijah Moore could be one. I'm sitting there feeling pretty okay about a possibility there, because I think Cleveland's going to trade or going to sell house and trade literally everybody on their roster. All right, let's talk about a 27-second clip that shows us everything we need to know about the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback competition in air quotations if you're listening to this on audio, in week 7. Let's play it for him. There it is. Wonder who's going to be next. Oh, there he is. There he is. Justin Fields. I did do Kyle Allen definitely dirty in this video. Will not lie. Got called out on it more than once from people saying there's no Kyle Allen. And for those of you listening and not watching on YouTube, this is all Russell Wilson and then Justin Fields in every single drill, because that's what happened all day long. It took zero snaps, because they do one before, and, well, that one was Russell Wilson, to say that there it is. There's the starting quarterback. A couple of teammates afterwards confirmed that Russell Wilson was taking first team snaps. Justin Fields wasn't doing much work with the first team. A competition that we knew was over the second Mike Tomlin said it was open, well, is officially closed. And Mike Tomlin is not going to say anything. I have a hard time where we stand today, re-listening to, rewatching, because I'm a psychopath, and my wife tells me all the time, she'll like, I'll get out of the shower or something, and she's like, dude, do you enjoy listening to the Mike Tomlin press conference again, or do you just do it because you're bored? And I said, I don't know. I just feel like if it's there, I have to do it. Like, I have to listen to everything Steelers at all times. It was clearly a mirage for the Jets. It was just, hey, here you go. We're not going to decide on a quarterback. Maybe Russ isn't even going to take first team reps. Now he is. He's the starting quarterback. I have a feeling Mike Tomlin's going to let this one coast right into Sunday night before he makes any announcement. I don't think he's going to make an announcement. I think we'll be putting out that story at 8:01 or 8:21 or whatever when Russ walks out there and has announced the starter of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But this one's Russ. Book closed. I mean, no surprise here, but I'll open the floor for you.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what we kind of forecasted yesterday. So not surprising that, I mean, I think yesterday you said that 95% of the snaps were going to go to Russell Wilson. I was like, oh, that seems a bit high, but I feel like based on what we're hearing, that's what you saw on day one of practice this week. So it seems like it's a foregone conclusion. It seemed like a foregone conclusion yesterday, but to see it play out in real time is a different animal. And we had the discussion on Monday. Could they really bench a 4-2 quarterback coming off a 32-point performance? Mike Tomlin can, and he certainly seems to have already done it.
Yes, he has. And I got a comment. I want to address this really fast because I got a comment immediately under that tweet that said Justin Fields looks like he's already given up. And I'm not getting that vibe at all. Like, I am not getting that whatsoever. I'm getting Justin was well aware that this was going to happen when Russ was healthy, that he was very mentally prepared for this situation, and that he's just ready to fill back in if needed. But I don't get the vibe that Justin Fields is giving up. The honest truth says, did you guys see Adam Schefter's tweet about Russ probably starting? I did. I think at this point it'll just slowly trickle in, but all it would take, and I wish we could just welcome all you guys to the sideline for 2 seconds, because that's all it would take for you guys to walk in there and go, oh yeah, there it is. Russ is the starting quarterback. Who would have thought? So this will be Russell Wilson on Sunday. I have a hard time believing that there is even a remote possibility that Justin doesn't go or that Justin starts unless something happens to Russell Wilson between now and then. And all those concerns, we'll address them as we get closer to game day. But for right now, yeah, they should be there. And I'm not eliminating any of them. All right. With that said, we talk quarterback. I guess let me ask you this. What is your biggest concern before Sunday when it comes to Russ?
My biggest concern is that he's not fully healthy behind that offensive line. And of course, he looked fine against Ghosts in that video, that 27 seconds. He looked fine. And he'll look fine in practice against, the scout defense, which is fine. Yeah. Will he look fine whenever the Jets defense is coming at him full speed on Sunday night on national television? That's my biggest concern. According to Mike Tomlin, it shouldn't be. He said last week he proved his health. This week he's trying to prove that he got the rust off. So according to Tomlin, there shouldn't be any concern, but I have a little bit of concern still whenever you're on the shelf at 35 years old with a calf injury for 2 months, and then you come back in with a depleted offensive line. So that is 100% still my biggest concern.
Yeah, if you go back and watch the tape, there's a couple of plays where you're very nervous for Russ. I got to say, also shout out to Russell Wilson. And I like Russ. I'm a big Russ guy. I think he's a great dude. If he does hear this, I hope he knows it's sarcastic. But shout out Russ, man. And that calf, brother, that calf came back rocking 100% faster than anybody I've ever seen who couldn't run a week ago. And now all of a sudden, those rollouts, they are strong. But like Mike Tomlin says all the time, can't tell you all the ingredients to a hot dog. You might not like it. Don't know how Russ got here so fast, but he did. He's on this moving train. He will be the starter. I agree with you. It does make me very nervous. I also think that the Steelers offense will be designed to have him avoid things. I also think that, you really go back and look, the Steelers don't really care. At this point, they're looking at it and saying, we're 4-2. We want to win the AFC North. This is a good opportunity. We'd rather do it now than later. Justin's had 6 turnover-worthy plays in the last 2 weeks. That's concerning. Russ gets sacked all the time, but he doesn't turn the ball over. So that's what they're looking at this going. And Mike Tomlin has his mind made. It will be Russell Wilson on Sunday. When everybody else says it, just remember, we knew it here first. We knew, everybody on All Steelers Talk, everybody in the chat, everybody everywhere knew what we were rocking because Russell Wilson will be the starter. All right, let's dive into power rankings. It is Wednesday, almost said Thursday. Days are flowing, coming, going, and in all different types of directions, but it's some power rankings. I got some shakeups this week. We're going to dive into them. Plus, we're going to answer all your questions. But first, let's take a pause real quick for a word from our boys over at Game Time. Basketball season is right around the corner, and there are few live events that make you feel as in the moment. And I get it. Football season is probably one of them where you feel like you're there. You're part of the action. Well, let me tell you about Game Time and how Game Time has this new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filter out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I decided to jump on and see what Pittsburgh Steelers versus New York Jets tickets look like in primetime, and it took me 3 seats before they hit me with a great deal, telling me that not only are these probably the cheapest, but for the view, they may be the best deal that anybody can offer. Let me walk you through a couple of really nice things about Game Time. First, priority. Game Time Picks curates to make it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. They give you all-in pricing, which means that this feature shows you the total upfront cost with no surprise fees at checkout, because that is the absolute worst thing about buying tickets. They give you seat views because nobody, and I mean nobody, wants to show up not knowing what their view of the stadium is going to look like. The lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And Game Time ticket coverage, which means that your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code ALLSTEELERS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code ALLSTEELERS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Shout out our boys over at Game Time. With that said, I do want to dive into power rankings and where we stand, but we do have a couple of questions about Russ. And I feel like if we address the Russ questions now, we keep things a little more coordinated and we get some people's answers while we're still diving into these topics. So I know there's a couple that we've already filtered through. Can we answer those before we dive into power rankings, just to make sure we close out the conversation with everybody feeling satisfied?
Yeah, of course. And let's start with Grayson the Ginger, who says, "Hey, Nick and Noah, do you guys really think Wilson can succeed behind our offensive line that's injured?"
I don't know. I don't know. You want to say yes if they hold up. You want to say yes if he could get some sacks, and it's I mean, look, at a calf injury is scary, but it'd be more scary if it was a rib injury. It'd be more scary if this was concussions, if this was concerns with, I don't know, soft tissue injuries are different simply because if you're just getting hit and falling down, that sucks. But how much is your calf really taking a blow from a hit? I mean, it's not like that. Actually, of all the injuries, this isn't the worst. Now you could have a freak accident like Aaron Rodgers had last year, but I mean, that was a 1 in a billion shot that happened 4 plays into the season. And if that happens, I mean, you look at that play, that was happening either way. That was going down. Aaron Rodgers was done no matter what, whether he had a calf injury that summer or not. So I think it's concerning. Certainly concerning. Could it be worse? Yeah, I think it could be worse. I think there are other injuries that make this more concerning than a calf one.
All righty, let's go over to Marlon Lewis, who wants to know, will Russ raise the morale of the team? Listening to PQ and others, they're in awe of Russell Wilson.
Yeah, they are. I mean, everybody's in awe of Russ. Everybody's in awe of Justin Fields. The Steelers locker room will always tell you good things about good guys, and that's what they are. I don't, to be honest, like, I don't know what the morale issues are in Pittsburgh. I know that there's GP and stuff like that, but I think overall, like, it's more of an outside perspective than it is an inside perspective. The guys in the locker room are pretty pumped, and they're loving life, man. They feel really good about things going on in there. So I don't think the players would tell you there's a morale issue. They also wouldn't acknowledge when guys do have a morale issue like George Pickens. So it's different. But overall, I'd say overall, right now, this team is feeling pretty good and the vibes are nice in that locker room.
All righty, let's go over to Redmond, who says, "It's actually great for us because there isn't any film on Russ this season. Can we use that in our favor?"
I want to say yes and no. There's no film with Arthur Smith, so that's going to give you a boost. It's going to be a new offense from what they're looking at. That's certainly going to help. It's not going to be very predictable, but you also know what you're getting in Russ. You also know the type of player that he is and the tendencies that he likes. He's been in this league a long time. He's played a lot of football, a lot of games. There's a lot of tape. So I think this is both a yes and no answer. It will help to have the combination of Arthur Smith and a new offense and not have any tape there. It will also not help so much because he's a 13-year-old vet or a 13-year vet, and he's been doing this a long time, and there's a lot of tape.
Let's go to Merzilla 304, who says, will we still see Justin Fields around the goal line on Sunday?
Yes. If I had to predict if there's an opportunity to bet out Justin Fields anytime touchdown, I would take it because I do think that he get some throws or get some plays at the goal line. Not a ton, but I do think there are going to be a couple for sure. You can't take those legs off the field, man. Mike Tomlin didn't say he's an X factor for nothing. They know what they're doing. They know what they got in him. It will be very small and very seldom, but he will be used. Yes.
Let's go over to Apex, who says, if Russ is a 1-year fix, why burn the possible long-term fix in Fields? Let's be real, they're not a Super Bowl team anyway this year, according to Apex.
Okay, yeah. So that's the thing is me and you could sit here and talk about these things all day, but Mike Tomlin has never thought about the future ever in his life. The guy could care less what's going on with the New York Giants right now. He's only focused on week 7 against the Jets. And right now he believes the best opportunity in week 7 against the Jets is Russell Wilson. That's what he does. You know, he has never looked long-term in his entire life. That is why he's so good, to be honest with you. It's also why the Steelers find themselves in weird situations from time to time. But this is not a situation where Mike Tomlin thinks, oh, we're not a Super Bowl team, so we have to think about the future. He's thinking, we're 4-2. How can we get better? And we think that's Russell Wilson.
We got a couple more quarterback questions here. Let's start with Samuel next, who says, Noah, with the game on the line, whom do you trust for a fourth quarter clutch comeback? Fields after Russell or Russell after Fields?
So clutch comeback. So it's Fields after. So it's Fields after Russ gets benched again. That's what we're saying, right? That's what we're interpreting this as. Or Russ after he replaces Fields. I'm going Russ. I think Russ is a proven veteran in this league. I like Justin. I think Justin's got a ton of potential. I'm on team ride it out with Justin. I think he gives you really good opportunities here, but I also think it is very clear why the Steelers made this change. And I mean, I trust Russ. I think Russ is a good quarterback. So this is a tough one. I would probably go Russ because I think Russ's arm is going to get you down there and his decision-making is going to be much better than Justin's.
I think we got 2 more here for the quarterbacks. Let's start with Lifted Ones, who says, hypothetically, what happens if Russ puts up 30-plus points on Sunday?
I mean, we come in here and we say Team Russ, baby, and you bet your sweet behind that I will be wearing the Russell Wilson shirt that is available on blackandgoldapparel.shopify.com. I think it's maybe my Shopify.com. I have no idea. It's on the YouTube channel. But you bet your sweet behind I'll be wearing it because there'll just be time to acknowledge that Russ is a stud and that the Steelers made the right call. That's what happens when Russ drops 30. If Russ drops 30, is you come back and you say, okay, Mike T, good job. Good decision.
Let's go over to Jose, who says there's a reason the Broncos are paying $28 million for Russ to play here. This is going to be an absolute train wreck.
Okay, this one is a good one, okay? Because you could argue there's a reason. And yeah, there are arguments to that side. There's also the argument of Sean Payton did not like Russell Wilson. Sean Payton was willing to run the Broncos into the ground in order to get his team. He's starting to get that. And no matter what, Russ was not going to be there in 2024 because Sean Payton was ready to move on. So I think this is both a Russ wasn't playing his best football in Denver and situations were weird. And also a Sean Payton didn't really care, man. He benched him after winning multiple games in a row with 26 touchdowns and 8 interceptions last season, looking pretty good, having the team on the verge of the playoffs because they would rather tank and not spend his injury guarantee than continue to win games. So I think this is both sides. And to make that argument, and again, I'm not picking Russ over Justin. That's not what I'm trying to do here. To make that same argument, there's a reason that Justin Fields got traded for a 6th round pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers when, you know, he was the 11th pick in the draft 4 years ago.
Let's finish it off with this one from Prague, who says, do you think Tomlin possibly doesn't see a future with Fields and has decided he wants Russ to mentor a possible QB that they end up drafting this next year?
No, I don't see that scenario. I think, again, Mike Tomlin does not think future ever. I would be surprised. I would be shocked if Mike Tomlin told me he had any idea what he's even doing tomorrow or what he's thinking about eating for breakfast or even lunch or dinner today. Like, it does not matter. The guy does not think ahead. It's crazy, actually, how much this guy doesn't think ahead. And I get good opportunities to kind of get to see the person of Mike Tomlin more than most people. And I don't want to say more than most people, but more than the fan base. And I mean, he is the same dude. He is the same dude. So he doesn't look future. I don't think that has anything to do with it. I do think that he wants to see what Justin could do after being mentored by Russ. I think that is intriguing to everybody in Pittsburgh right now.
That is all the Russell Wilson questions. We'll get to the rest of the questions following the power rankings, which I know a lot of people have been looking forward to.
Yes, power rankings, week 7, week 3 of these power rankings. Had a blast doing overreaction Tuesday's power rankings today and what's more likely tomorrow before we head into the weekend. Very excited for this one. Have some shifts, not a lot of shifts, but that being said, when we get to the part where it gets boring again, I have explanations about how close things really were to getting shaken up in this one. We'll start week 7 power rankings. We'll see. I mean, shout out Parker, man. Toss us some tunes. Anybody else wants to toss us more tunes for every one of these, we'll take them because we are all about it. I think a little catchy vibe, you know what I mean? A little, you know, a little bit of that. I'd play Creed, but my wife got mad at me last time I brought up us talking Creed on this show. She did not like that we were exposing our singing habits to the world. Let's start with some honorable mentions here. Week 7, Pittsburgh Steelers, New York Jets, coming off week 6, a victory in Las Vegas. I got 2 of them. Both of them were on our top 5 last week. Neither in our top 5 power rankings this week. We'll start with the money man himself, Chris Money Boswell, coming in as an honorable mention. He was number 5 last week, and don't get me wrong, he didn't get any worse. He definitely didn't get any worse, but the Pittsburgh Steelers thankfully are getting to a point where they need less and less of Chris Boswell, which is excellent for everybody. That being said, dude is a stud. He remains a stud. He's having a baby, so shout out to Chris Boswell. Life is good for Money Man Boz. And the Steelers have, I mean, in my opinion, the best kicker in football. Where we stand right now, Justin Tucker is potentially getting washed. Just fell off a little bit in the front of the season. If he still gets, if there ends up being a Justin Tucker first team All Pro and Boz does not get first team All Pro this year, I will be very upset. I will cause havoc for a kicker. I really will. I will stand my ground for Chris Boswell. And I don't know Chris Boswell. Like, he is the only guy in that locker room I've never spoken to outside of walking by him and saying, "Hey, dude, I saw on Instagram that you're having a kid. Congratulations." And him saying, "Thanks, man. Appreciate it." That was it. That was the only time I've ever talked to him. So I would put up a stink. I really would. Chris Boswell, honorable mention here. Absolute stud where we stand this season. Number 2 fell off this list. He was number 4 last week. And there will be questions when we get to our top 5, because yesterday I made one statement that is going to contradict what these power rankings say, and I will explain that when we get there. But second honorable mention here is Joey Porter Jr. Still, in my opinion, top 6 people on this team, top 6 players on this team, absolute baller, killing it. There is little doubt in my mind that by the end of the season, we should be having conversations about how close Joey Porter Jr. is to the top 5. I mean, he's got to be inside the top 10 cornerbacks in the NFL. He's going off. He continues to do his thing. The difference here is that Vegas had nobody to cover. Who are you going after? Trey Tucker? Sorry. You know, I get it. Cool. They're good names. They're not Jacoby Myers, and they are not Devontae Adams. And because of that, there were names that stepped up a little bit, and that's where we go here. That's where we go, is you look at what happened, what transpired, and you make those adjustments. It's a whole body of work, and sometimes that includes a significant consideration from the previous game. Joey Porter Jr. is my second honorable mention, which brings us to number 5. Inside linebacker, PFF's highest rated player in Pittsburgh right now. That is, I mean, he goes by a number of things. Okay. Inside linebacker, scary dude who wore the overalls to training camp. In your head, guy who would possibly win a one-on-one brawl fight to the death in overtime as of yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And also Landon Roberts. E-Rob is number 5 on my list. Dude's an absolute stud this season. He has shown exactly why the Pittsburgh Steelers only added one inside linebacker to help replace Cole Holcomb and said, E-Rob and Patrick Queen, you will be our guys all season long with Peyton Wilson. And I mean, to be honest, there are few people in the NFL that I would rather Peyton Wilson learn from than E-Rob and Patrick Queen. because those two are great teachers and doing everything that Peyton Wilson should be doing right in front of his eyes. E-Rob's been absolutely dominant. He's coming up with big plays all the time. He is in the middle of that defense constantly. I know everybody wants to talk about Patrick Queen, but we should start acknowledging how good Landon Roberts is this season. I mean, he's on a tear. He will continue to be on a tear. Number 5 is Landon Roberts. Number 4 gets a little tricky here because yesterday I said Joey Porter Jr. is the best cornerback in Pittsburgh, and today I will say that Dante Jackson is number 4 on my Pittsburgh Steelers Week 7 power rankings. Why? Because, well, ball don't lie, my friend. Ball don't lie. And Dante Jackson comes up with the football as much as anybody else in Pittsburgh these days, and that's exactly what the Steelers needed this season. They have been desperately waiting for a corner who could come up with interceptions, and they now have one. His name's Dante Jackson. Don't get me wrong, Joey Porter Jr. is the best corner in Pittsburgh, and Dante will get more targets and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, right now, Dante Jackson is creating turnovers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are winning football games off of turnovers. They beat Vegas because of their defense causing turnovers. Dante Jackson was a big part of that. He remains a big part of that. When the Steelers need him to step up, he does. I still think Joey Porter is the best corner in football, or the best corner in Pittsburgh, but I think Dante Jackson is such a underrated pickup this offseason. It's maddening that people still try to argue online. I see it all the time on Twitter about, oh, Dante Jackson isn't that good. Dante Jackson isn't that good. Got to get another corner. What are you talking about? Dante Jackson should have a new deal the day the season ends that says you are in Pittsburgh until you retire, which might be 3 years from now. He's 28 years old, but who cares? Like, you keep him until he falls off that ship because he's that good right now. Number 3, 2, and 1. They were close to some shakeups here. Dante Jackson nearly slid his way into number 3 over Cam Hayward. And I said, yeah, you know what? Dante came up with some plays. You go back, Cam had a good game on tape, but Dante really killed it. And there's some thoughts of maybe Dante goes up to 3. Let's add a little spark to these power rankings. And then you look at the stat line and you go 4 tackles, 2 quarterback hits, 1 tackle for loss, and a sack. And you instantly remember how good Cam Hayward has been at 35 years old all season long. This dude is ridiculous. There is nobody in football that ages better than Cam Hayward. And if he does not find himself in Canton, Ohio one day, it is a shame, only because people need to recognize that this dude at 35 years old continues to dominate, and not many players at his age will do it for an entire season the way that Cam Hayward has done it through 6 games. He is absolutely killing it. His totals on the season as we stand right now: 25 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 10 quarterback hits. He has hit the quarterback 10 times and 3 sacks on his way to another 10-sack season. I mean, that's Cam Hayward. Old, reliable, and aging like fine wine. Number 2 is Deshaun Elliott, who once again proved he is the second best player on the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. He has surpassed Minkah Fitzpatrick. I love Minkah. I think Minkah's an animal. I think Minkah is impossible to replace. And anybody who wants to talk, oh, he's not coming up with the football, doesn't matter. He's still doing ridiculous things out on that field. Deshaun Elliott is a monster, an absolute freak of a football player. And I don't know how he got overlooked his entire NFL career. I don't know how nobody knew who Deshaun Elliott was before 2024, but they should know him for the rest of his playing career, because Deshaun Elliott is the second best player on the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and quite frankly, possibly the second best player in Pittsburgh right now, if we're going to be completely honest. And number 1 is TJ Watt, because, well, there are many reasons to make many moves. There is no reason to take the best player in the National Football League out of first place. And that is who TJ Watt is right now, is the best player in the National Football League. And I will say that with my chest out and an explanation point at the end, because I am dead serious. TJ Watt is the best player in football right now, and he is keeping the Pittsburgh Steelers. Any hopes, any ceiling you see for this team comes from TJ Watt. That is my top 5. TJ Watt stays at number 1. Deshaun Elliott number 2, because, man, he deserves it. Cam Hayward, fine wine this guy is. Dante Jackson and Landon Roberts climb themselves up to 4 and 5 with Joey Porter Jr. and Chris Boswell as honorable mentions. I mean, you've seen it all day, but I'll ask you your thoughts. I'm sure you have some. These top 5s, what are you thinking?
I mean, before I give you my thoughts, I want to throw out No Coast Golf, who says, I'd argue Najee could have jumped into the top 5 after his performance last weekend. Here's what I'll say. That's a second straight week that even down to the honorable mentions, no offensive players. I mean, Chris Boswell's a special teamer, no offensive players in the top 5. It's kind of how Mike Tomlin wants it, isn't it?
Yep. It is exactly how Mike Tomlin wants it. And you could say Najee Harris had a phenomenal game. He did. If we were just going to go who were the best 5 players in week 6, Najee Harris is number 2 behind TJ Watt. But, I mean, he's coming off of a couple pretty bad games in a row. And, yeah, he had a phenomenal one. But these guys, TJ Watt, Deshaun Elliott, Cam Hayward, have carried the Pittsburgh Steelers. Dante Jackson has been as consistent as they come. And Landon Roberts is PFF sucks, and they have awarded Landon Roberts the best player in Pittsburgh. And sometimes you just got to look at it and go, I mean, that's wrong, but there's a reason to believe that. And I mean, he has been as consistent as they come as well. So that's my top 5. I get it. I like Najee. I think there is room for an offensive guy to climb in here eventually. And maybe Russ will be the guy that does. But right now, where we currently stand, there are none. My list, including the honorable mentions, all defense, and then Chris Boswell.
Yeah, and the one good thing here is obviously the Steelers are a little depleted up front, obviously at outside linebacker, but who's been stepping up this entire time? 3 of the guys you mentioned, including honorable mentions, secondary. And you talked about Minkah Fitzpatrick as well. It's not like he's performing poorly, so I'm glad that we're respecting the Steelers secondary. It's the best that it's been in a very long time. It is a unquestioned strength for the Steelers right now, and hopefully it only gets stronger in a couple of weeks when you get Cam Sutton back. I thought Beanie Bishop had himself a pretty solid game in Las Vegas as well, so it seems like that unit is trending upwards, which is a great thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because and I say without a shadow of a doubt, that when Alex Highsmith gets back in there, your front is going to be back to being absolutely dominant. Run game, pass game, all inclusive. The Steelers defense has had their gaffes. There was the Cowboys game. You can't forget that. There was the early portions of the Colts game. You can't forget that. But they have the pieces to be great. They've put it on tape that they can be great. Now it's just about doing that more consistently.
I agree. And it'll come. But, man, right now, this defense looks good. And there's a test. Sunday night, I get Aaron Rodgers and company. They're 2-4. Things are not looking good in New York. It's a test. It's a good one. So, both sides of the ball, especially the offense. You want to step up. You want to earn some places on here. Well, Najee, do it again. Maybe we'll start talking. With that said, we're heading into the best part of the show, as we do every single day. We will answer all, or at least most of, your questions. We'll try to get to as many of them as we possibly can before we head out of here. We leave power rankings. We go to your questions. Toss them in the chat if you got them. Nick, I'll toss it to you. What do we got?
Yeah, let's start with a few that have made contributions, and they're all surrounding around the wide receiver trade market. Cody Silva says, at this point in the season, would you rather see a trade for Walker Little, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, Daniel Brunskill, or Dietrich Wise Jr.? Can we get 2 of them potentially? Shout out. Been watching for years.
Appreciate you. Definitely appreciate you. These are some good names. These are definitely some good names. Dietrich Wise Jr. is definitely a name to watch. I will say that his need in Pittsburgh is much lower than the rest of them. So I think we could cross him off the list. Christian Kirk is too expensive in my eyes for a guy that isn't as big of a contributor as the Steelers would want him to be. And how many slot corners can a team possibly have before you just have too many slot corners? DeAndre Hopkins tops this list for me. He's number 1. I think that is a possibility as we get closer to the trade deadline. I believe that the Titans will be looking to trade house. They'll just, hey, whatever, man, we'll get everybody out of here and we'll figure it out next year. That's where they're going to say. I mean, they're going to have an opportunity at another quarterback. They're probably going to take it. They might trade Will Levis in the process. It's not looking good in Tennessee. DeAndre Hopkins tops that list. Walker Little would be interesting. I'm not sure if he's a right tackle, though, or if he's a left. I believe he's a right tackle where we currently stand. I want to say he's a starting right tackle. If he is, not bad. Not a bad name to have on the monitor for the Pittsburgh Steelers because they could sure use some help. And if they're looking for offensive line boosts, why not go get a guy? I believe he was a second-round pick in Walker Little.
Let's go over to Troy, who also has more names for you. Why don't we go get Darius Slayton, good round runner who missed and gets smothered on the cheap? Maybe you get Mechie or somebody else.
So you could go to Green Bay and you could look at guys like Romeo Doubs, Wicks. I mean, there will be names out. I think Christian Watson will be available, if we're going to be honest. I mean, that guy is listed as the number 1, probably plays like the number 2 on some weeks as the number 3. Darius Slayton's a good one. He's a name to watch. Like, I don't know if he's available yet. Do we know what is the Giants' record? That's important to these conversations is how bad are the Giants? Because at some point they will be looking to just give up. I understand that, but are they looking to give up right now? That's the biggest question, because if they're not,
they're 2-4.
I mean, okay, they're close. They're definitely close. They're definitely close. Darius Slayton is a name to watch. I think that one will be like a right at the deadline situation, although the NFL is drunk right now, so you just never know what's going to happen. I think that is a name to watch. John Mechie, I don't think is available. Somebody from Green Bay could be, but Green Bay is going to try to keep everybody happy and content so that they can make a playoff run and see what they could get out of Jordan Love, especially after paying him a boatload of money. Darius Slayton is my name to watch out of this group.
Let's go over to Adam Lowe, who says, what do you guys genuinely think about DK Metcalf? Russ is going to start, and DK looks obviously frustrated, and Russ knows DK very well. Super physical blocker and a top-tier receiver. What is the most that you would give to get Metcalf to Pittsburgh?
I'd give up a second-round pick for DK Metcalf. I'd feel pretty good about a second-round pick for DK Metcalf. I believe he's got 2 years left on his current deal where we currently stand. Maybe just 1. Is it? But I would give up 2. I would give up a 2 for DK Metcalf. I'd feel pretty okay about a 2. You'd probably have to give up a 2 and something. I'd probably give up a 2 and something. I don't know what that something would be. If it's another 2, maybe I'd consider it. But I would definitely give up at least a 2 for DK Metcalf.
On his contract right now, he has a $15 million cap hit for this season, then 1 year left after it at $31.8 million.
And that's honestly not bad. Like 31.1 is that's what you were willing to give up for or offer to Brandon Ayuk. If we were having those conversations about Ayuk, I'd have those conversations about DK Metcalf, certainly.
Let's go down to Jake, who said, I saw Najee Harris was on the injury report today. Do we need to be concerned about his status for Sunday evening?
No, I did see that. Definitely a concerning injury. Ribs are something to monitor always. But, I mean, that dude Najee doesn't miss games. It's weird. He's like the Ben Roethlisberger of running backs. The dude just hobbled. Like, I remember Ben would literally have somebody tie his shoes as he hobbled through the locker room, barely human. And it just kind of feels like Najee would do the same thing. Like he plays. He's just a football player. He wants to play. He wants to get out there. Doesn't care about the injuries that he's facing. So right now where we stand, no, I'm not worried about Najee Harris. I did see that. It is something to monitor. We'll know more tomorrow. I would imagine he maybe doesn't practice tomorrow, was limited on Friday just to keep him fresh. But he is not somebody who needs to practice and seems to always be available no matter what the injury is.
Speaking of DK Metcalf, who we just finished talking about, Marlon wants to know, if available, Cooper Kupp and DK seem to be the biggest needle mover wide receivers left. Which one would work best in a Steelers uniform? I don't know if Cooper Kupp is anywhere close to being available, is he?
He's definitely not available, but the Rams stink. So I'm sure that
That's
everybody's
fair.
going to start tossing every name out there. So I'm sure that there are rumors already floating around about Cooper Kupp that we have just missed somewhere. But DK is still my answer. I mean, Cooper Kupp's injury prone at this point. It stinks because I think Cooper Kupp is the second best wide receiver in football outside of Justin Jefferson, but he's injury prone. He gets hurt all the time anymore. DK is the guy. He's the move. He's a good blocker, very sound, deep threat. He's got a connection with Russell Wilson. He's young. He's physical. He brings an attitude. I think he would fit well in Pittsburgh. And as much as I like Cooper Kupp, I don't think the injuries are going to get any better playing in Pittsburgh, where it's snowy and cold and you're playing in the wind compared to DK Metcalf.
All right, from a myriad of wide receiver questions to a myriad of injury update questions, let's start with Brandon, who says, what is the status on center Zach Frazier?
Not good. He was rolling around today in a boot with the scooter. That is never a good sign. He is week to week, or considered week to week, according to Mike Tomlin. We'll see what that looks like. I would guess that Zach Frazier is a bye week or after the bye week situation, depending on how bad this week is. He's already out against the Jets. The Steelers have ruled him out. If Ryan McCollum plays well, there's no reason to rush Zach Frazier back. So where we stand right now, I would imagine Zach Frazier is a post-bye week return with his ankle injury.
All right, Eddie the Great wants to go to the defensive side of the football and say, any update on Herbig?
No update right now. I could pull it up as we're talking here to see if he practiced today, but I'm not positive that he did. In fact, he did not practice with a hamstring injury. He's another one. I said it the other day. I still carry the same train of thought. This is not a report. It's more of a speculation. I don't believe that he will be back before the bye week. He's also a post-bye week guy. The Steelers are at that spot right now where all the guys who are like injured, outside of Alex Highsmith, you don't want to rush back, and therefore you'll utilize the next 3 weeks to try to get them healthy before the second half of the season. So Herbig did not practice. He's still around the team. I mean, he is Instagramming it up a storm. He is hilarious on game days, but he's likely to be back after the bye week, I would guess.
You mentioned Highsmith in that answer. Any news on Highsmith coming back is what D wants to know about.
Yeah, Alex Highsmith was a limited participant, which means that he is on his way back. I guess Alex Highsmith will play this weekend. That is my prediction. I was told, I mean, we've been reporting on this show for weeks now that week 7 is the ideal return for Highsmith when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers defense and that groin injury. We'll see how the week progresses. Nothing's a guarantee with those types of injuries. But where we stand right now, the Steelers are expecting him to be on the field on Sunday.
And one last injury one before we get back into general questions. Kane wants to know, what's up with Cole Holcomb? Anything?
Nobody's any idea, my friend. Nobody has any idea. Remains on the PUP list. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going down with Cole Holcomb or when he's planning to return, if he's planning to return, if the Steelers plan for him to return. He's working every day at practice. He is out there working with the trainers every single day, doing something or another. So, I mean, you gotta think that he is at least getting somewhere. I don't know if getting close is the words I should be using, but getting somewhere with this injury. But where we stand right now, I have no idea when he's coming back.
Let's go over to Samuel, who says, any chance Darnell Washington ends up being a game MVP? He'll not be covered, and he is a favorite of both Wilson and Fields.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Would love to use the 6'9" tight end a little bit more if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hopefully Russ, gets those tight ends involved a little bit more, and we could see some Pat Freiermuth, Connor Hayward, and Darnell Washington this week. I hope so. I'm a big Darnell guy, and I like that he is finally getting involved in the offense, and hopefully that just continues with Russ.
Let's go over to Prague, who says, hey, Noah, I'm wearing a similar flannel to you right now in class. Was just wondering how many flannels you own and which one is your favorite.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I probably own about 100 flannels. I don't own many clothes. You guys could probably tell. I mean, I ran into somebody on Friday night that I believe was Friday. It was either Friday or Saturday. No, I think it was Saturday night. I went to the Morgan J show in Pittsburgh, and I was talking to somebody there, and I was wearing this exact same shirt because I have 5 shirts, but 30 flannels. As for my favorite, got to go my 10 Bones, which is ironic because I'm wearing the Jessup Lonza Club, which is made by 10 Bones. That's just my buddy back home, Anthony Stambone. You can check that out at bonescollection.com, I believe. He sells a bunch of stuff, and you probably see me wear 10 Bones stuff all the time. That's my favorite flannel.
Let's go over to Peter, who says, after his cameo/debut, do you think Roman Wilson is inactive again this Sunday against the Jets?
I do. I think he's active. I think he slowly starts taking steps forward. We'll talk guys who will benefit the most from Russell Wilson. Calvin Austin should top that list. I think Roman Wilson's going to get a couple of looks. I think Roman will start to slowly work his way into this offense now that it becomes more of a passing offense than a running offense. So I think we get more Roman Wilson this week, not less.
Let's go over to Dana's question. Dana wants to know, do you think Justin feels better in the pistol than under center?
Yeah, he does not. I mean, he's not an under center quarterback. He didn't play under center at Ohio State much. He didn't play under center in Chicago, and he clearly didn't want to play much, or at least didn't feel as comfortable under center. That being said, he could do whatever you ask him to do, and he'd work on whatever you asked him to work on. But he is definitely more of a pistol shotgun quarterback than he is under center. Most young quarterbacks are.
Let's go over to the Rueful Troll, who says, what number would DK Metcalf take if he came to the Steel City? Or do you think Pickens would toss his number out the window?
No. Pickens would not give up 14. I could promise you that. Unless they gave him 1. Yeah, they would never give him 1. They would never in a million years give him 1. I would say, what numbers are even available? 11's gone. Does anybody have 12? Is 12 a number in Pittsburgh? I don't believe it is.
It's Bradshaw's number, but
yeah, but it's not retired. So potentially 12 would be a number to watch. Potentially, I don't think anybody has 18. Potentially, Anthony. No, he's a practice squad guy.
Yeah,
he's a practice squad guy. I would guess a teen number, but those would be my guesses there.
Let's go and finish this off with Adam, who wants a little scattering report from within the AFC North. Says, do you guys think that Nick Chubb's return has any actual significance to the Browns at this point with how bad that they have been and with Amari Cooper now being gone?
Yes. The answer is an easy yes. Definitely has much significance on the Browns. It doesn't make the Browns good. So, the level of a lot of significance to an insignificant team, we could say. It's a situation where Nick Chubb is a monster. He's the best running back in football. He is an absolute freak, and maybe the second best running back in football. Derrick Henry's scary right now, but he's an absolute freak, and he makes any team that he's on 10 times better. That being said, you're not going to overcome Deshaun Watson. You're not going to overcome no wide receivers. You're not going to overcome a beat up offensive line and a defense that isn't performing. You're not going to beat any of that. So it doesn't make the Browns good. It does make them much more of a challenge for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it is not a name that Pittsburgh should be warm welcoming back to say, oh, well, whatever. We're still going to beat Cleveland. There's always a chance the Steelers lose to Cleveland, just like there's always a chance Cleveland loses to the Steelers. And to have Nick Chubb there only makes things more difficult for everybody on the Steelers defense.
That's a wrap for today then.
Awesome. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. We will be back tomorrow with more updates on the air quotes quarterback competition, plus where the Pittsburgh Steelers offense can go from here and what week 7 against the Jets is looking like. Plus, as we do every day, we'll answer your questions. With that said, it's a good one. So enjoy it. Enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.